A Dalton home that she leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid her rent, and now
a storm of controversy has largely surrounded the tumultuous tenure of Mayor Tiffany Henyard. What was once a community hoping for steady leadership has instead been embroiled in scandal after scandal, many directly tied to Henyard's contentious actions and decisions. One of the most glaring controversies is Henyard's appointment of a police chief who shockingly lacks the legal qualifications to serve as a police officer. This is just one example of the dysfunction that has come to define her administration. From the moment she assumed office, Henyard has been accused of corruption, financial mismanagement, and political favoritism. Critics argue that her leadership approach focuses more on consolidating power at all costs than on governing for the well-being of the town. Henyard's detractors point to numerous allegations, including embezzling taxpayer money, using township resources for personal gain, and making appointments that seem based more on loyalty than legality or competence. The appointment of an unqualified police chief is a stark example of what many see as Henyard's disregard for proper governance. Public safety, a major concern in Dalton, has been further undermined as reports of delayed emergency responses and mismanaged resources continue to mount. The decision to appoint someone without the proper qualifications to head the police department has raised serious questions about Henyard's ability to lead. Many residents and critics view it as a deliberate act of negligence rather than an unfortunate mistake. Despite the growing chorus of criticism, Henyard has offered little in the way of explanation. Instead, she has deflected accusations, claiming that her critics are merely engaged in politically motivated attacks designed to bring her down. Yet for the residents of Dalton, who live with crumbling infrastructure, rising crime rates, and a local government in disarray, such deflections offer little comfort. Many of Henyard's priorities have raised concerns, with critics accusing her of focusing on consolidating power rather than addressing the town's most pressing needs. Rather than stabilizing the town's deteriorating economy, addressing public safety concerns, or repairing strained relations between the government and residents, Henyard's administration has often been embroiled in public disputes and controversies. Allegations that she has used taxpayer money for personal luxury have only fueled frustrations. Some residents believe she views public office as a vehicle for self-enrichment, pointing to lavish expenditures and questionable policies as evidence of her mismanagement. The controversies surrounding Henyard have turned Dalton into a political spectacle, attracting media coverage beyond the town's borders. Henyard's staunch supporters, however, argue that she is the victim of a smear campaign. They believe she is facing a double standard, with her leadership being scrutinized far more harshly than that of her predecessors. As the first female mayor of Dalton, they argue Henyard is confronting opposition from political insiders who are unwilling to accept a shift in the town's power dynamics. Despite this narrative, Henyard's supporters have failed to convince many residents, who are growing increasingly frustrated with the apparent dysfunction surrounding her administration. Henyard's combative leadership style, characterized by fiery speeches and public confrontations, has only deepened the divisions within the community. For many, this has left them questioning whether reconciliation and progress are even possible under her leadership. What has added to the concern is the involvement of outside agencies, including the FBI, which is reportedly investigating Henyard's administration. Rumors about financial improprieties and abuse of power have sparked speculation that her legal troubles could deepen significantly if any evidence of misconduct is uncovered. If such allegations are proven, the consequences could be devastating, not just for Henyard but for the already struggling town of Dalton. For a town of just 200,000, the stakes are incredibly high. Residents are left wondering whether their local government is capable of serving their needs amidst the turmoil that has gripped their community. Henyard's story is one of stark contrasts. A mayor who promised transformation but has instead been mired in controversy. A town that once hoped for stability but now faces chaos, and a leadership dynamic teetering on the brink of collapse. As Dalton continues to make headlines for reasons that overshadow any aspirations for progress, the future remains uncertain. Can Henyard rally her administration and deliver on the promises she made when she first assumed office? Or will the mounting scandals and widespread distrust lead to the end of her political career? Only time will tell, but for now, Dalton remains a town in crisis, uncertain of the path ahead.
Well, for the first time in many weeks, Dalton trustees and Mayor Tiffany Henyard held a public meeting together, but not a...
Ronald Burge, the controversial figure handpicked by Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard to lead the town's police department, has now been officially deemed inactive by the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, ILETSP. In simpler terms, this means Burge has not met the state's basic requirements to wear a badge, carry a gun, or manage a police force. Despite this bombshell revelation, Mayor Henyard remains unwavering in her support for Burge, refusing to budge on her decision to appoint him as police chief. This latest scandal is just one more chapter in the ongoing drama that has engulfed Dalton, a small town in Illinois that has become the epicenter of controversy and intrigue under Henyard's leadership. For those familiar with Henyard's time as mayor, Burge's appointment fits right into the pattern of her controversial actions. From allegations of misusing taxpayer money for extravagant parties to employing police officers as personal security and even dressing in theatrical outfits reminiscent of gangster movies, Henyard has built a reputation for pushing boundaries and ignoring protocols when it suits her agenda. Along with profit for the police experts and health agencies, her leadership style is characterized by public spectacle and drama, often overshadowing the serious responsibilities that come with running a town. However, the consequences of her antics are far from entertaining for the residents of Dalton, a community already struggling with critical issues such as poverty, infrastructure decay, and rising crime. The controversy surrounding Burge began in September when Henyard announced his appointment as the new chief of police. Almost immediately, the move was met with backlash from the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, who argued that the mayor did not have the unilateral authority to make such an appointment without their formal approval. Despite their objections, Henyard pushed forward, bypassing the usual checks and balances that are supposed to prevent this sort of overreach. Critics viewed her actions as a blatant disregard for governance protocols, a recurring theme throughout her administration. However, what made the situation even more alarming was Burge's lack of qualifications. It turned out that he did not meet the minimum requirements set by Illinois state law to serve as a police officer, let alone lead an entire department. According to state guidelines, police officers must complete rigorous training, maintain certifications, and remain in good standing with the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Burge's inactive status indicated that he had failed to meet these requirements, raising serious questions about his ability to perform his duties as police chief lawfully and effectively. This revelation only heightened tensions between Henyard, the village board, and the growing number of frustrated residents. Despite the uproar, Henyard stood by her decision, defending Burge as the right person for the job. She dismissed critics as politically motivated adversaries intent on undermining her authority. Yet her defiance did little to quell concerns, and her actions were seen by many as emblematic of her disregard for both governance and public safety. Opponents of Henyard's decision argued that her insistence on keeping Burge in the role was less about leadership and more about consolidating political power. By installing a loyal ally in such a critical position, Henyard could potentially use the police department to further her own political agenda, which some view as a dangerous precedent for any elected official. The implications of this conflict were far-reaching, not just for Burge and Henyard, but for the town of Dalton as a whole. Residents and local leaders feared that the dysfunction emanating from the mayor's office was eroding public trust in local government. The town, already grappling with financial instability, an underfunded school system, and deteriorating public services, did not need yet another political circus on top of these pressing issues. Adding to the tension was the fact that outside entities, including the Illinois Attorney General's office and the FBI, were reportedly monitoring Henyard's administration. Investigations into her financial dealings, alleged misuse of public resources, and other controversies could potentially result in serious legal consequences for the embattled mayor. While Henyard continued to deny any wrongdoing and portray herself as the target of a politically motivated smear campaign, the growing list of allegations against her left many questioning how much longer she could continue to weather the storm. In an unexpected turn, the opposition to Burge's appointment reached a boiling point, leading the Village Board of Trustees to take the matter to court in an effort to block the appointment. At one point, it seemed they had succeeded, as a judge issued a temporary restraining order preventing Burge from serving as police chief without the board's approval. However, Henyard was not about to back down. Determined to push her agenda forward, she continued to challenge the board, leading to a highly contentious and chaotic village board meeting. Ultimately, the judge ruled that Burge could serve as interim police chief for 30 days while Henyard and the board worked to determine a permanent replacement. This seemed like a temporary victory for the mayor, but the drama did not end there. Days after the court's ruling, the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board dropped a bombshell. Ronald Burge was not legally qualified to serve as a police officer, let alone lead a department. According to the ILETS's formal letter, Burge had failed to complete the necessary paperwork and training required to maintain his certification as a law enforcement officer. Even more troubling, Burge had not passed a requalification shooting exam, a mandatory requirement for carrying a firearm, since 2021. The implications of this discovery were staggering. Not only was Burge unqualified, but his appointment had been made in direct violation of state law.
Word one, it says 100%, well, 100% of one, 100% to who? I mean, that could be a lot of different things. What's the administrative cost? When's it going to start? When's it going to end? Just...
To make matters worse, Henyard's handling of the Burge appointment was not her first misstep. Her time as mayor has been marked by a series of questionable decisions that have left Dalton residents questioning her judgment and leadership abilities. From the very beginning, Henyard's political tenure has been a spectacle, with many viewing her as a figure more interested in personal power and drama than the well-being of the town. Beyond Burge's controversial appointment, Henyard's administration has been linked to numerous other issues, including allegations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and political favoritism. These allegations have continued to mount as Henyard remains embroiled in scandal after scandal. Despite calls for her resignation, Henyard remains defiant, refusing to step down and insisting that she has the right to govern as she sees fit. As the town continues to grapple with her leadership, the implications of her actions have left Dalton residents worried about the future of their community. With her reputation tarnished and her credibility increasingly called into question, many are left wondering if the mayor's grip on power is strong enough to withstand the growing calls for her removal.